Chapter 21, Organizational Systems. At least Dad liked going to the candy store as much as Bat did. That was one good thing about every other weekends. On Saturday morning, after breakfast and dishes, Dad pulled their bicycles out of his garage. Unlike the garage at home, which was twice as big and 4 times as crowded, Dad's garage was labeled and organized. Helmets were kept in a clear plastic bin marked helmets. The bikes, instead of leaning up against a wall or on each other, were pulled neatly into a bike rack like the one at school. And Dad always arranged them in order of size, left to right, large to small. A metal rack in one corner held car supplies, spare containers of oil, a big jug of windshield wiper fluid, a little vacuum that sat ready on its charger. There was a tool bench, too. An assortment of wrenches swung from the hooks across the front. Coffee cans held screws and nails. Sometimes, Dad let Bat pound nails into a piece of scrap wood, as long as he wore safety goggles. Bat approved of Dad's garage. It was just under a 1-mile ride to the Sugar Shack, Bat's favorite candy store. To get there, Bat and Janie and Dad rode out of Dad's apartment complex and down a bike path towards central Quincy. They crossed the river on a bridge made just for bicycles and pedestrians before turning onto 3rd Street. While Bat was double-checking the lock on his bike outside the Sugar Shack, he heard someone say his name. It was Israel, from school. It took Bat a second to figure out who he was, because Bat hadn't ever seen Israel anywhere but at school, and never on the weekend. "What are you doing here?" Israel asked. He was smiling in a way that showed almost all of his teeth. He had, Bat noticed, a piece of something green, maybe cucumber, stuck between his 2 front teeth. "We're gonna go buy some candy," Bat said. "Cool," Israel said. Then he said, "We just had brunch next door." And he pointed to the Broken Yoke Cafe. A man and a woman were pushing through the door just then, and they waved. Israel waved back. "That's what I would have guessed," Bat said. "You have food in your teeth." Israel's smile fell away. "Okay," said Bat. "See you Monday at school." "Hey," said Israel. "Wait. I was wondering about that skunk. Do you still have him?" "Of course I do," said Bat. Then, "Well, not right now, because I had to spend the weekend with my dad." Israel just stood there on the sidewalk, like he was waiting for Bat to say something else. The grown-ups who had waved at Israel walked over and stood behind him, and now it felt like all 3 of them were waiting for Bat to say something, or do something. "Well, goodbye," Bat said, and he walked away. "Hey, sport, is that a friend from school?" Dad's face looked just about as excited as it looked when he was watching baseball. "Bat doesn't have friends," Janie said, but not in a mean voice, just a matter-of-fact voice. "I'm sure that's not true," Dad said. "It's not true," Bat answered. "Lawrence is my friend, and Mr. Grayson." "Oh, Bat, grown-ups don't count," Janie said. Then she pulled open the door to the candy store and held it for Bat to pass inside. The Sugar Shack was an exceptional candy store. It had bins full of M&Ms separated into colors, so if you wanted exactly 11 greens and 11 blues, but no yellows, reds, or oranges, you could get exactly that. Along the back wall were all the gummies. Gummy bears, worms, sharks, gummy hippos, rhinos, and jellyfish, gummy dinosaurs, gummy frogs, gummy sea stars, gummy zebras, gummy camels, gummy parrots, gummy crabs. Bat didn't like the gummy candy, but he always got one gummy sea star anyway. He liked the way they felt in his hand. Big barrels of hard candy formed the aisles: jawbreakers and gumballs and candy necklaces and rock candy and ring pops. Just inside the door was a case of jelly beans, arranged in a rainbow of colors. Near the counter stood a candy bar display, with all the ordinary stuff, but harder to find candy bars too, like Violet Crumble bars and Zagnut bars. "You sure inherited my sweet tooth," Dad said, loading up his own plastic bag with jelly beans. "Actually," Bat said, "teeth have nothing to do with it. People taste with their tongues and their noses." "Do you stick that gummy bear up your nose to taste it?" Janie asked. Her bag was full of a mismatch of candies that didn't make any sense to Bat. It's a gummy Sea Star, Bat said. And no, the way something smells is part of how you taste it. Well, I guess that's why we don't eat skunk meat, Janie said. P.U. She wrinkled up her nose and stuck out her tongue. Thor doesn't stink, Bat said. He doesn't even smell yet. But he will, Janie said. I hope not until after we give him to the rescue. Maybe we'll keep him, Bat whispered. Sport, your mom can't adopt every stray animal that comes into her clinic, Dad said. She'd have a zoo if she did. Well, you wouldn't adopt all of them, Bat said. Just this one. Mom said we were only going to keep him for a couple more weeks, Janie answered. But, she said, turning to her father, Bat is getting too attached. Bat started bouncing on the balls of his feet. He clutched his plastic candy bag in his fist, but it crinkled in a way that bothered his ears, so he loosened his fingers and let go. Blue and green M&Ms bounced and rolled across the floor of the sugar shack. Sport, you gotta be more careful, Dad said, his eyebrows pointing in at his nose. Bat felt tears well up in his eyes. He swiped at his face with the arm of his shirt and turned towards the door. Under the sole of his shoe, he felt the crunch squish of a flattened M&M. Chapter 22. Baseball and Braiding. Before bed on Sunday night, Janie always took a shower and washed her hair. Lately, she'd been weaving it into 6 braids while it was still damp, so she could have wavy hair in the morning. Janie's hair was usually stick straight, like Dad's and Bat's, though hers was a dark, dark brown instead of black. When she came out of the bathroom, in her pajamas, carrying a wide-toothed comb and 6 hair ties, Bat asked, Can I braid it? I can do it myself, Janie said. Let him try, Dad said from the couch, where he sat watching baseball on TV. He had an orange and black baseball cap on his head, because tonight he was rooting for the Orioles. He had a collection of caps from all the teams he liked, and whenever one of his teams was playing, he'd select the right baseball cap from the top shelf in his closet and wear it the whole game. Dad said he didn't believe in luck, but it sort of seemed like he did. Okay, said Janie, but if you mess up the braids, I'm going to redo them. She sat cross-legged on the floor, facing the TV. Bat sat behind her on the couch next to Dad, and Janie handed him the comb. Bat started combing at the bottom, the way Janie had taught him, so he wouldn't pull her hair. He worked out all the little tangles with the teeth of the comb as he made his way up towards the top of her head. Soon, he could pull the comb straight through her hair, from the very top to the ends, without snagging at all. Then he divided the hair into 6 sections, 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the back. The back 2 looked a little thicker than the others, but Bat didn't think Janie would notice. He picked up the front left section of the hair and started braiding. Go, 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 Dad yelled at the TV. One of the baseball players had made a good hit and was running as fast as he could around the bases. I think baseball is the most boring game you watch, Janie said. Even more boring than football. That's because you won't let me explain it to you, Dad said, adjusting his cap. If you understand the game, it's fascinating. Bat reached the bottom of the first section of hair and wound a pink elastic band around its end. The braid wasn't perfectly neat and straight like the braids Janie did, but it wasn't bad. Moving on to the other front section, Bat focused on making the second braid even better than the first. Make sure you're braiding it tight, Janie said, so it's really wavy. I am, Bat said. Bat loved braiding Janie's hair, even though he usually wasn't very good at hand things. He liked the feeling of the damp, heavy hair. He liked organizing it into a series of smaller, neatly contained braids. He liked feeling close to Janie like this, by helping her and touching her without having to have a big conversation that might turn into a fight. Getting along with people was hard for Bat. Figuring out what they meant when they said something or when they made certain faces at him. People were complicated. But braiding was easy. There. He'd finished the second braid and wrapped the end of this one in a dark green elastic. Janie reached up and touched the braid, then pulled it in front of her face so she could see it. "Not bad," she said. "Yeah!" yelled Dad. He stood up from the couch, grabbing the cap from his head and waving it around. It wasn't the same as being at home. Mom wasn't here. Thor wasn't here. But maybe every other weekend could be okay.